You are listening to the Starter Girls podcast with Jennifer Loading. Whether you are starting a project, starting a business, starting a brand, or starting a movement, we are here to talk about it. And guys, I'm super excited to welcome my guest, Sarah Strackhouse, to the show. But before we do this, we got to get this thing going. Today is a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change your circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. Rise up, be amazing, be you, do you. All right, so I want to let our listeners know a little bit about you. Sarah, welcome to the show, first of all. And
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Sarah Strackhouse grew up in North Central New Jersey. She went to Lehigh University, where she played D1 soccer and eventually went semi-pro for a bit. She quickly caught the news bug when she started an internship for NY1 News in New York City during her junior year of college. Upon graduation, she worked for Fox Business as a graphic designer and concurrently as a photojournalist for NY1 News. While there, she was honored for her footage of Hurricane Sandy on CNN and NY1's New Yorker of the Week. In the summer of 2013, Sarah moved to West Texas for a reporting job for a CBS affiliate, where she gained live experience in the field with a focus on oil and gas and was honored in the Emmys for her coverage of the oil and gas explosion. 3 years later, she became a morning anchor in the North Texas for NBC 10, where she started a political segment during the 2016 race for the Oval Office. After a year there, she joined CW33 team in Dallas as a nightside reporter back in the field. At the end of 2017, Real News Public Relations reached out with an opportunity she couldn't pass up. She's now a digital correspondent for Real News Communications Network, still putting together news-style stories and going live with experts depending on the day's local and national news. Sarah is also a digital content manager for RNCN and host of a digital TV show called The Strackhouse. Yeah. I love it, Sarah. So much greatness there.
Sorry,
awesome.
It's a little long.
No, it's good. No, it's good. I love it. We want people to know what you got going on, because I think this is so awesome. So I want to start off really quick, because we kind of talked a lot about here. So my first question I want to ask you is, did you go to college to study journalism, or were you doing something completely different?
Completely different. It was kind of backwards how I got into it.
I'm interested to know this, because I always talk about this. It's so funny how life works out. Like we kind of start out in one direction, and then something happens, and then we just kind of go in a different direction. So how did this kind of happen for you?
So in college, I was kind of looking at marketing finance, and then I got very into graphic design. I kind of always loved the arts and that side of things, so I got into graphic design, and then I actually got an internship for a graphic design position, a Photoshop artist for New York One News. And then I saw kind of the videographers, and I started taking, some photography classes, and I ended up getting a concentration in photography. So then I wanted to, my next internship, that summer actually, because the fall I did the Photoshop internship, and then that summer before senior year, I decided I wanted to try the video side of things. So I was out in the field, shooting lives with the reporters, and it was just so cool, kind of getting behind the camera, being out in the action. It was awesome. So then, that's when I say it's called catching the news bug, and then you live it.
I love that. Well, and it's so interesting, because obviously I've not been in that field, but I was talking about this to somebody the other day. Like I went to school and studied accounting, and I talk about this all the time, how we go to school, we go to study these, what we call so-called careers, because we think those are where the money are, and we need to do those careers, and then we kind of, navigate in different directions. But I took this public speaking class in college. I remember doing this, and we're talking eons ago, and I just remember being mortified having to talk in front of people, and it was one of those where I didn't have anything printed out. You went up there with no cards, and you just had to start talking.
And now look at you.
I know. I laugh about it all the time now, but somewhere along the line, you must have had some kind of, I always say, your strengths kind of sort of find you, and there must have been something there. You just hadn't navigated that yet and found it. And so I think that's so incredibly cool. So you played soccer?
Yes.
You played soccer.
Yeah.
I've had kiddos in soccer.
Okay.
And so that's fun.
It's a good family sport. All my siblings played too.
Really?
So,
yeah. We did a lot of soccer, and then mostly with my middle child. My little one did, but my middle one played for a very long time, and then decided kind of, midway in high school, she wanted to move into cross country and track, and so she got a full scholarship to do
for
cross
her.
country and
That's
track.
awesome.
So, but there's a lot of running in soccer.
Yes, there is. But at least there's a ball you're
Yeah.
chasing. You know what I mean? That's what I always say. I wouldn't like to just run straight. At least I'm like going after something.
Right,
And
right.
I have a lot of respect for the track and cross country
awesome.
folks.
That's awesome. Well, soccer's fun too. We did a lot of that. When she decided to kind of to go away from that, it was one of those moments where like we were like, this is all you've done, and now you're kind of navigating in a different direction.
But it got her to school, right?
Exactly.
There
Got
you
her
go.
to school. Absolutely. So, all right. So yeah. So this is fun. So we talked a little bit about what got you into this, and what do you love about what you're getting to do now? Like, what's the best part of this for you?
I think first off, I love being able to still tell people stories. I mean, that's why I fell in love with news to begin with, was because you are getting out someone's story, whether it's more of an educational piece, whether it's unfortunately those sad stories that you tell in news a lot of the times where, you know, something tragic happened. But I think it's getting to, and I don't want to say educate the public, because you never want to be talking at people.
Right.
But I think it's being able to tell someone's story in a different kind of way where people might not have otherwise heard it. And that's why I kind of love being in the industry that I'm in when it pertains to content, because same kind of thing, you're still telling that story. And with the digital TV show, you know, you get to talk to inspiring women who are out there, they're making change, and they're passionate about what they do. And everyone's had ups and downs and hurdles, so you know it wasn't easy. So I hope to bring a little bit of inspiration to other people.
Absolutely. And so let's talk a little bit about your show, the
Yeah.
Strackhouse. How long have you been doing that now?
So I actually we're not even at a year yet. So we're but I've kind of broken it up into seasons because I was a little nervous at first. I kind of was just like, I wanted to start it for so long, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just pulling the trigger. I'm announcing it, and then
Going with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the best though. You
Yeah.
know, like if you just, it's almost like when I was writing my book, like I kept, like for almost a year, I kept talking about it, and people would be like, write your book. And I'm like, oh, I got to write my book.
Right? I know. I just need to pull the trigger and do it.
Finally, I go into somebody's office. I tell the story all the time. The person knows who this is. I went into his office to talk to him about something else, and he's like, you need to write your book. And so I jump in the car and I get on Facebook, and I'm like, I'm going to put this out on Facebook, because if I put it out there, people are going to like hold me accountable now, because I don't want to be lying.
Exactly.
So I did. And then it was so funny because people started messaging me, and they're like, are you really going to write the book? And I'm like, yeah, I put it on Facebook.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
why
now
would
it's
I
official,
not?
right?
Exactly.
It's like a relationship status.
Exactly.
Now it's real.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're like I am. So like if I make a decision to do something, like I just sort of kind of go full throttle.
Yes.
Like I want to get it done. And so I wrote that and like got it done in 5 months. It was like, we're just going to do it and
That's
be done.
incredible.
So that's why I don't like to make those like cheap decisions. You know,
Yes.
like they've got to be like for real, because I'm going to go like 90 to 100.
Full throttle.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So so let's talk about your podcast a little bit. So what is your show? Tell our listeners a little about what your show is about, and what are these? You know, what kind of guests are you bringing on? What are you looking for when you're doing this?
So basically the show is, and I kind of mentioned it, you know, it's about inspiring women who are dedicated to making change. And whatever that change is, you know, I have one that's not out yet. You know, she's a pilot and I think it was something like 7%. Don't quote me on that, but it was something like 6 or 7% of pilots are female. That's it. So it's kind of a whole different world. And, you know, she's gone through ups and downs to get there, and kind of she has a really rare certification. You know, people like that. I talked to Brittany Wagner from Netflix, Last Chance U. I mean, she, you know, is out there helping other students and has now expanded her reach. You know, Shemaine was a guest on mine, and I know she was a guest on yours, and, you know, she's wonderful helping people try to live a healthy life. So it's kind of, I want it to be someone who inspires you, someone who is, you know, doing something that they truly believe in. And it doesn't have to be a famous person, you know, but that's kind of what I'm hoping people take away, is that, you know, if this person can go through it, I can too. One of my favorites was a woman I had on. She was a Secret Service agent in 9/11 in the Twin Tower when it happened. And she has an incredible book. just kind of talking about it, and has an incredible story about how she suffered from PTSD, and kind of she tried to commit suicide multiple times, and then how she kind of came back from it. And it makes you think, if people with these crazy stories can kind of navigate and come back and rebound in such an incredible way, then there's hope for all of us.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I'm like you. I love this story. And it's interesting because in my background, I came from a network marketing background, and everything that we always talked about was the story. The story sells. And so part of everything that we did in our presentation was always about telling stories. And it was so funny today. I was doing this presentation on, making impactful decisions and these sabotaging behaviors. And I had these like 7 habits that I did to help me have exponential growth. And it's so funny because as I'm doing this, like I have a story for everything. Like a story comes out of the bag. I'm like, I know this person that does this and this one did this.
And one time this happened. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was laughing at myself because I'm like, and I have another story. Hang on. But they do. People can relate to stories. And that's why even when I'm talking to people all the time and they're like, do I talk about, myself and this? Yes, people like the stories. They want to know that they can resonate with that, relate to that, and it's impactful. And so I think that's the best part. And I'm sure yours is like mine. The reason I love doing the podcast is to get to know people and the things that they've overcome, and just really being able to inspire other people and show people things can be done.
And I love that about you. I know I've listened to a bunch of yours, obviously, and I also listened to your story recently on the Jeff Crilley show.
Okay.
And you have an incredible story. So I think it's cool that you're also telling other people's and just kind of getting the word out for hope and inspiration.
Yeah, I'm all about that.
Yes.
I like to show people that you can do anything you want to do if you just put your mind to it. It's all a decision, and it's in the head.
Yeah.
It all starts up in there first.
It really
so
is.
I love that. So who would you say has been your greatest influencers over the years? I mean, you can pick one, or if you got a couple, you can name them. I'm okay.
I mean, that's a hard question.
Yeah.
I think I've had, it'd be a bunch. I'll never forget this one reporter that I frequently worked with when I was in New York City. I was the videographer and he was the reporter. And, he was like, you like editing, you like shooting, you like writing, and you're a chatty Kathy. I can't shut you up. He was like, why don't you try reporting? And I was like, no, good God, like I can't get in front of the camera.
Right.
I literally used to get the shakes, being in front of the camera. And I was with him probably for about a year. I was shooting for him. And he eventually just said, okay, now it's your turn. Go shoot a fake stand-up. Go shoot a fake stand-up. And he just kept making me do it. And then finally got to the point where he was like, okay, put together a reel, put together something. And he just kept kind of on me.
Yeah.
And then, so I credit my reporting side of things and falling in love with storytelling to him. That's Michael
awesome.
Herzenberg from New York One News. You can look it up. He's a great reporter. But I credit him with a lot of that. And then obviously, at each station that I've been at, and all reporters will know when you start off in small markets, you kind of hop around a bit until you kind of get to where you want to stay. But each station kind of had a different mentor for me. So it's been pretty great along the way to find those.
Mentors are incredible.
They are.
I talk about this all the time because I have been incredibly blessed that the entire time that I've been in the industry that I was in, I've always had great mentors. In fact, it's so crazy because when I was networking, well, I would say there's the pre-COVID and the after COVID. When we were networking a lot, I would run into people all the time that were starting businesses or in the field, of entrepreneurship, and they had no mentors. And I never understand that because how do you get anywhere without mentors? It's so hard to navigate these fields if you don't have people that can have walked that walk before you and kind of can pave the way and you can learn from them. So I'm a big believer in mentors. I think they're just
I
incredible.
could not agree more. I mean, they've been there. My mom always says a wise man learns from his mistakes. A wiser man learns from others.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you've gotten some awards here, which I think is so cool. That's awesome. So what has been like, I guess, over the years for you, maybe like your most memorable, story that you covered, or was just like, this was like so awesome, you know what I mean?
So probably the most memorable, and I don't know if I'd go with with specifically the word awesome. Just because it's a kind of a sad story, but Hurricane Sandy. Yeah, okay. I mean, that was, that evening, I can't even begin to describe what it was like. I guess I will try, but it was, so that evening we kind of went out and, this hurricane was coming in. We were, on Coney Island, which was evacuated, everything was evacuated. So we're there kind of in the thick of it. We're doing live shots. All of a sudden our, camera guy or our truck operator who handles the live truck, I'm doing the video and I have a reporter there, Janine Ramirez. She's still at New York 1. And he comes out and he's like, hey, the water's about 3 feet. We need to go. Because, on the other side is the bay coming in. It happened so quickly. We got in the cars and we all had separate cars just because we had all met there. And the water came in and we couldn't drive out. It started to get to where people were wading through chest high. So we drove up onto the boardwalk, which was breaking at this point. So we're just like trying to find high ground. We finally get to Brighton Beach. And if your New York people will understand this. We get to Brighton Beach. So there's a little bit of a higher side. So we park there and, we try to reach out to the police department, and the police department is evacuated. The Coast Guard is stuck in the water, so like they're not able to be on the shore helping anyone. And there's a fire crew stuck with us because their engine had filled with water, basically. So we go 2 flights into this abandoned building. And we're there for about almost 48 hours, just kind of stuck there. And we'd planned, we had clothing, we had water, we had, generators, we had food, but it was probably we were still going live 24 hours, around the clock, but it was probably one of the craziest situations I've ever been in. And my mom was like, Sarah, what if like the full boardwalk collapsed? And I was like, well, I don't know. I'd, grab the camera and swim because you can't get the camera wet. Yeah. My mom's like, that's what you're thinking about? And, when you're in that moment, you're like, okay, gotta save the camera. Can't get the camera wet.
I'm in business mode right now. I'm working.
I wasn't thinking about me. I'm like, well, I'm a good swimmer. I'm slightly athletic. I can figure this out.
That camera up out of water.
But, it was, and then the days after we went to the Rockaways. I have the craziest pictures just of these dilapidated houses and people just so upset and just, trying to figure out this recovery, which I know people are still recovering years later. But some of the cool things were that people were coming together, helping each other. FEMA was there. It really was, I think, New York at its finest, and that people came together, and it was voting, was happening. So there were these makeshift vote tents. Okay. So it was a little bit of that, obviously devastation. Right. But it was, New Yorkers came together and you really saw that family community. So it was cool in that regard.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I'm originally from Houston. So we moved to Dallas in 2004. My my family's all down there. So they've sat through Rita and all the hurricanes that had come through there. And so it's so interesting to see when you have that situation like that, how people come together. And I don't remember which one was the last one when they did.
Harvey?
Was it? Yeah, it may have been that one when it was so bad out there. They couldn't even get gas. It was just a mess. And and I just remember my mom and dad calling and being like, we might have to drive halfway to meet you. Can you bring us some gas? I'm like, that's a ways, Mom. You're 240 miles the other direction, So it's really neat, though, to see people come together in those times. And I just imagine this because I, as a child, went through Hurricane Alicia, and I've been through some of them. We were there when that tropical storm Allison came through and flooded out Houston, and so I thankfully I have escaped there.
Yeah,
I haven't had to witness anymore lately, but every time I hear one come through, I'm like, no.
But in Dallas, there's tornadoes, and that was scary to me. That was very scary. I had never been in anything like near a tornado, and I remember the first time I heard those sirens, I was like, oh my God, we gotta go. That's it. Pack up the cars, get the dogs, we're going.
Yes. And you are so right about that. And tornadoes actually scare me more so because there so quickly. And you're so right about that. I remember the first summer we moved here, we were at the pool in Carrollton or wherever, and this windstorm kicks up. In Houston, when there would be a windstorm, we're like, where's the thunderstorm? Like, where's the rain coming, right? And they're like, no, this just happens here. It's like windy. And then I'm like, what is with all these tornadoes and hail in April? I'm like, what is that? Like, you never...
hail is when it's cold, right? Yeah. And then I get down here, it's like spring. And
I know, it's like weird weather here. I'm like, it's like a whole little new area. You know, my parents are like, well, you're kind of in that area, you know. But very different from here to Houston. Even... I think it's so much more humid there even than here, but there are days, you know, it'll be very humid here, and I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, it's a Houston day.
Yes, the hair goes frizz.
Yes, it's the Houston day today. It's balmy. So this is so much fun. So I want to switch gears on you just a little bit. This is my what I call my fun rapid fire questions. I always like to do these. So what do you like to do for fun when you're not doing your digital content, doing your podcast and all that other stuff?
Well, I work out a lot.
Awesome.
My husband and I are both very into working out, and I love MMA. And I'm a personal trainer.
I know, I saw that too.
Yeah,
so I saw that too.
That's training.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
And then I also, I ran a marathon, and I know you did too. So I know that's kind of
Which
in
one
the
did
back.
you do?
So I did the New York City.
Very cool. I have a friend that did that one.
Yeah, well, we did it for a charity, and that was actually the second one I'd run. And after the first one, I promised myself I'd never do another.
Yeah.
And then,
running marathons is kind of like having kids. You never ask anybody after a marathon if they're going to run another marathon because they suck.
The answer is no.
Yeah, it's a definite no. And I want to say, I have so many crazy stories. And if you heard the Jeff Curley, you probably heard me talk about how I did it to get through my pain.
Yes.
I have so many crazy stories running of there was the one time that I ran the Irving Marathon, and at mile 17, I just bonked. Yeah. Totally bonked, but I'm not a quitter.
Right.
I walked the rest of that marathon.
You finished. Yes.
I did. And I came in and I sat down on the ground. I remember that was I think my very first one I did, but I want to say I did 4 or 5, but
that's
so
incredible.
Funny because I did them, and then I moved into trail racing. I really enjoyed that much more, even though it was more difficult for me. It was more
at least more interesting.
Yes, it was more interesting, and it was less populated because there weren't as many people. And so for me, it was a little bit less stressful when I was doing that. So I really enjoyed it. But a lot of good things come from that. So I'm impressed that you did that, because I think it's you need to experience it. You know what I mean? You need to have that, I've done it. And
you know what? I realized it, obviously it's hard physically, very, but I think it was harder mentally for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you just start, all the thoughts come in, and there are a lot of things that come in your head during those few hours.
Oh, yes.
So it was
100%. Yeah, you want to cut your feet off.
Yeah, you're like, why did I sign up for this?
Yes.
What? Yeah. And I always say I got tricked into the first one. I was drinking wine with my girlfriend, and she was like, oh, just sign up. It's fine. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this.
You got this. Can't back out. What do you say, right? You made the commitment. You got to do it. So I won't ask if you're going to do another one. People ask me that all the time, and I'm like, I just don't, I still run.
Yeah.
I do, back when I was training and doing all that, I was running 70, easily 70 miles a week.
Jeez.
Easily, because I would do 7, 7 9s, and then I would 7 9, 7 9, and then I would go do a really long one on
and
the
then
weekend.
a 16 on the
yes.
set.
Yes, and now I'm just if I get out to do 3 miles,
I know
it's
like
a
win.
Good
it's
day.
a win. I know. Yesterday I did a few miles, and I'm like, oh, this is a good day.
It is. It's a good day. Now I'm into walking my dogs, and I'm a little stressful.
Burned 100 calories there. I'm good.
Exactly. I'm like, we'll go walk. Well, and it's funny. Last weekend we went out and we were on this I don't know what we were doing, but we went out and walked 9 miles on Saturday with the dogs in two different periods of time that day. And then we got up the next morning and walked them again, and then went on a 10-mile bike ride. I'm like, what are we doing?
Who am I?
I don't know what we were doing. So anyway, that's cool. So this is a fun question I want to ask. Okay. I'm going to throw this one in. If you were stuck on a deserted island, what would be the one thing you'd have to have? The one thing.
Okay, so not a person, a thing?
A thing, yeah. An item.
And not a food.
It could be a food. It could be whatever you want.
Okay. Ooh, that is a really
I know, this is a hard one.
Yes, it is.
I'm what would be that
hard.
one thing that you feel like you have to have? I used to say it, I'd be like, what makeup item do you have to have? But we could probably do with that. It might be that. I need my mascara, please.
Right? I know. I think a book.
A book? That's good.
Yeah, because I love to read, but I don't read quite as often as I probably would like to.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, it'd be a book. I mean, besides like the sunscreen, a fire starter, all that stuff. You know, the stuff I need to live.
To live, right? We're gonna say all that's provided.
Exactly.
What's your
okay.
other one thing
all
that
right.
you need to need that you have to have? Okay, are you a morning or a night person?
So morning. My husband will tell you I'm very grouchy in the morning.
But you're up.
But I'm up.
But
I'm
you're
up.
up.
Yeah, I go to sleep at like 9:00 at
I'm
night.
kind of that way too. I start to it's so funny. My son always comes in. My youngest, he's 16, and he'll come in at like 9:30 and be like, "Hey, Mom, you want to watch a movie?" And I'm like, Sean, like it's like 9:30. Like I'm not gonna make this but like 5 minutes, and then he'll put it on because he talks me into it, and then I'm like nodding off on the couch. Never make it through.
Yeah.
I get it. All right, dog or cat person?
Dog.
Dog. Do you have a dog?
I have 2.
You have 2?
Yes, one's a Bernese Mountain Dog.
Awesome.
And then the other is a Pointer Pit Lab mix.
Oh,
We're not
cute.
exactly sure what he is, but
Yeah,
they're
but
amazing.
I have a pet. We just rescued a little brindle, and she goes from like 0 to 90 crazy and that.
I'm obsessed with my dogs. I'm a freak dog mom. They have their own Instagram.
I've thought about doing that. That's awesome. I need to check it out. That's so fun. And what is your favorite food?
Cheese.
Cheese. I love cheese.
Yes,
I have
by
not
far.
had anybody say cheese on here. That's a first. I get all kinds. I love this question because I find out all kinds of cool things about people.
I mean, I could go for like mac and cheese, pizza, like that kind of stuff, but cheese. It's
just
cheese.
cheese. Do you have like a certain cheese? You like all cheese?
I'm an equal opportunity cheese lover.
Chris is laughing at us. That's good. I'm an equal opportunity. That's how I feel about
cheese.
That's how I feel about a lot of things like ice cream. I'm an equal opportunity ice cream lover. Chocolate. Yeah.
Right.
Let's just say this. I'm an equal opportunity lover of sweets.
Okay.
I like all sweets.
I like that.
Even though like right now, okay, so I do low carb
Okay.
all the time because I did the keto for a long time. So I do low
right.
carb. But here's the funny thing. Walmart has, and I order these online, has sugar-free Reese's peanut butter cups.
What?
Yeah, they're lethal.
Oh my gosh. Where did that come
I'm
from?
like, it's a little bit of heaven.
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
buy the bag of them, and I'm like, I could just all day, like, get in the chocolate and the peanut butter, the Reese's peanut butter cups. I'm like, get out of those. They still have calories,
I know. I need to like take notes and go get that.
They are so good. Yes, they find the sugar-free chocolate, then you can justify having a little bit more.
There you go.
So, love it. All right, and if you could be any character or superhero for a day, what would you pick?
So
This one's hard.
yes, it's probably a mix between. I'm obsessed with Friends, so I love Rachel.
Yeah.
I think she's awesome, and I love Joey.
Okay.
So if I were a boy, I'd probably want to be Joey. If I were a girl, I'd want to be Rachel. But superhero, I mean, I could watch Wonder Woman on repeat, and I'm obsessed with Gal Gadot. I think she's
awesome.
incredible. She,
It's awesome.
yeah, I love her. So I would want to be Wonder Woman.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it. Very cool. And I like the Friends thing. My daughters like Friends.
It's
Isn't
making
that
a
funny?
comeback.
Isn't that funny?
It really is.
How because my middle one was watching it. She even has a Friends shirt. Like I had a picture I think today that came up on my Facebook or something with her with her Friends shirt on. It's so funny how these things kind of like
I know they circle back. Friends, it won't die. You know, it's still loved.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. So, Sarah, if our listeners wanted to learn a little bit about more what you've got going on and over at The Real News, your podcast, where do they come find you at?
So they can go to my website, sarahstrackhouse.com. Literally just my name.
Easy enough.
Yeah. And then also everything else is The Strackhouse. Okay. So THE Strackhouse, STRACK, and then the word house.
I love it. I love it. And we got it scrolling on the
perfect.
scrolling on the screen. We'll make sure too when it goes out. I usually put all the info in there so they can come check you out.
Yeah.
Check out Real News. It's a cool place. I got great
it's
studios
awesome.
over there.
It's a great company.
Every time I go in there, I'm just like mesmerized by all the little setups. And
I know.
Such a great place to do.
They really know how to make a studio incredible over there, and they're so creative. So it's a really fun team to be part of.
Which is so important when you're trying to present, content and get things out there. The creativity. That's the best part I think of doing all this is just coming up with the content. Being able to be creative and taking somebody's piece and how do you make that so that it's presentable for the audience and really feature those people. So I think it's
really cool, and it's all staffed by former journalists. So they have the storytelling bug,
right?
And they love, they have that radio, TV, quality. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, you're doing awesome stuff, and I've looked at some of your pictures and what you got going on. So I'm happy about your podcast. So keep doing that because I think that's cool. There's so many people that really want to tell their story, and I think the cool thing about that too is women really need to hear this stuff because because, I talk about this all the time when I'm training and when I'm doing these presentations, that women just battle, I think, so many things when it comes to even being in the career world.
Yes.
They're competing with not only themselves, they're trying to dominate in a man's world.
Yeah.
And I was telling somebody, because I had a lady come in here one day and we were talking about even qualifications with, like men will look at a job and they could only have like 2 qualifications. And they're like, I'm trying out for that.
Yeah, why not?
I
Yeah.
got 2 of them. And then a woman will look at it and go, oh, I'm missing 2.
Yeah.
And so they wrestle so much with that. And so I think what's great about what you're doing is you're bringing those to the forefront to show these, women that, hey, you can do these great things. It's really just about having that determination.
And that's exactly it. I think sometimes we limit ourselves, and I know I've been very fortunate. I've grown up with incredible men, who have always, I felt respected. And so I never want it to seem like I'm not raising men up as well. It's just my focus is on women. Yeah. And I think it's I think, like you said, especially with social media, I mean, we compare ourselves so much. And I think that's something that women do more so than men. Yeah. And, everyone has a story, everyone has a struggle, and whether or not you see it.
Right.
There's
always a behind the scenes.
There's always a behind the scenes. The only people who know what's going on are you and whoever's involved in that struggle.
Exactly. That's what I said. You always see the outside video. You don't know what's going on
Yeah.
underneath. So this has been awesome. Sarah, do you have any final thoughts? Any little something you want to put out there for our audience?
No. Just, I really enjoyed being on. So I want to thank you and credit you with what you're doing. I mean, you're giving people a platform to, tell their story and give people hope and inspiration. I think it's incredible what you do. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun having you here. So with that, I want to tell our listeners, if you enjoy our podcast, please be sure you give us a rating on iTunes and Facebook, because we can't do this without you, and hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. And today I did not have a final thought. How did I not do that today? So we're going to wrap it up. So with that, you guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.